Tornadoes. Many occur every single month in the U.S., some months producing more than others. It's a somewhat common misconception that tornadoes don't occur during certain times of the year, and although they may be less frequent, if December of 2021 taught us anything, it's that a large tornado outbreak can still occur no matter the month. So let's look at the biggest tornado outbreak from every month, and this will be by tornado count. I will also make mention of some other deadly or notable tornadoes from the month. Anyways, let's start with January. So there have been a lot of big tornado outbreaks in January, with pretty recently the January 11th to 12th, 2023 outbreak, which spawned 39 confirmed tornadoes in Dixie Alley. But the largest tornado outbreak to ever occur in January took place on January 21st and 22nd of 1999, where over the 2 days, 129 tornadoes would touch down, killing 9 and injuring more than 160. 9 F3s would touch down, one of which would strike Little Rock, Arkansas. The highest rated tornado of the outbreak, however, would be an F4 that would strike and flatten a couple of houses in rural northeast Arkansas. 1999 as a whole would have 212 tornadoes touch down during January, which is the record. The deadliest tornado to touch down in January is a tie between the January 3rd, 1949 Warren, Arkansas F4, which killed 55, and the January 11th, 1898 Fort Smith, Arkansas F4 that also killed 55. January has had no F or EF5 recorded tornadoes, but the next month on the calendar, being February, has had some F5 and EF5 tornadoes. February has around the same tornado activity as January. The biggest outbreak to have occurred in February is pretty recent and is the 2008 Super Tuesday outbreak. Throughout the 5th and 6th, 86 tornadoes touched down, killing 57. The outbreak would consist of 5 EF3s and 5 EF4s, including a very long-tracked EF4 that tracked through central Arkansas for over 120 miles. February has had one tornado rated F5 that came from a small outbreak in Dixie Alley on February 21st of 1971. Another pretty crazy February tornado came from that day that killed 58 over a 200-mile-long path. February has only had one F5 though. March has had quite a few. March is the month in the US where the storm season sort of starts. Most tornadoes and outbreaks during the month are in Dixie Alley. Many notable and deadly tornado outbreaks have manifested during March throughout history, including the March 13th, 1990 tornado outbreak that spawned 64 tornadoes. The outbreak being best known for the Heston and Gossell tornado family that had 2 F5s on the ground at the same time. Another notable March outbreak would be the March 2nd, 2012 tornado outbreak that consisted of 72 tornadoes. The outbreak is best known for the Henryville, Indiana tornado. And I can't forget the deadliest and longest tracked tornado in U.S. history, that being the March 18th, 1925 tri-state tornado that tracked 215 miles and killed 695 people across Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. The outbreak as a whole is said to be huge, but no exact number of tornadoes exist. The biggest recorded outbreak to manifest during March is very recent, being the March 31st to April 1st tornado outbreak, which spawned 114 tornadoes across the Midwestern, Southern, and Eastern United States. This tornado outbreak featured 11 EF3s and 1 EF4, being the Keota, Iowa tornado, which would track through southeast Iowa, impacting several towns over its 25-minute life, thankfully killing nobody. March as a whole has recorded 7 EF5s, and the following few months have too many to bother mentioning. April marks the start of the U.S. storm season as the tornado threat tracks east and grows. Many large tornado outbreaks have occurred during the month of April. There are 2 main outbreaks people think of when talking about April outbreaks. First is the April 3rd, 1974 super outbreak that consisted of 148 tornadoes in just 18 hours. The second most for a 24-hour period. Out of those 148 tornadoes, 23 would be rated F4 and 7 would be rated F5. Those 148 tornadoes would unfortunately end the lives of over 310. The biggest April outbreak would obviously, however, be the infamous April 25th to 28th, 2011 tornado outbreak that spawned 360 tornadoes in 4 days. The outbreak would consist of 11 EF4s and 4 EF5s, all coming from the 27th, and on that day, on multiple occasions, several EF4s and 5s were on the ground at the same time in the same state. Unfortunately, those tornadoes would cause devastating damage and in total kill over 320 people. April 2011 as a whole would end up becoming the most active month for tornadoes in history. But the crazy thing is, April is considered the warm-up for tornado season. May is when Mother Nature is in full swing. May has produced some of the most violent and notable tornadoes and tornado outbreaks of all time. The May 31st, 2013 El Reno tornado, which is the biggest tornado ever at 2.6 miles wide. May 3rd, 1999, which is the outbreak that spawned the Bridge Creek Moore F5 tornado. And I could go on and on naming notable tornadoes and outbreaks from May. And this is where it gets weird, because May has produced many tornado outbreaks, some spanning almost 2 weeks. So it depends on how big of a time period you want to consider. For a shorter time period, a tornado outbreak would be the May 21st to 26, 2011 tornado outbreak that spawned the El Reno and Joplin EF5s. The outbreak over the 5 days spawned a total of 241 tornadoes, including 3 EF4s and 2 EF5s. A longer duration and bigger outbreak would take place between the 3rd and 11th of May 2003, where 365 tornadoes would touch down over the 8 days. But the largest tornado outbreak is actually the May 17th to 30th, 2019 tornado streak, which spawned 400 tornadoes over 13 days, one of which being the Dayton, Ohio EF4 tornado. But in the U.S., May, like previously stated, is the peak of tornado activity. After May, it begins to go downhill in terms of the tornado tally. June is the point where tornado activity begins to decrease. June has still produced many violent tornadoes and tornado outbreaks, however. Some more notable events in particular are the June 16th to 18th, 2014 tornado outbreak, best known for the Pilger tornado family, consisting of 4 EF4s that touched down in and around Pilger, Nebraska. The June 8th, 1953 Flint Beecher, Michigan F5, and the June 22nd, 2007 Ely, Manitoba, Canada F5, Canada's only F5. Another outbreak in the month of June would be the June 22nd to 24th, 2003 South Dakota tornado outbreak, which would spawn 125 tornadoes, including the relatively well-known Manchester, South Dakota F4. This outbreak would also spawn a super erratic F4 near Coolidge, Nebraska. 2 main outbreaks are contenders for the month of June, and the first is the June 14th to 18th, 1992 tornado outbreak that spawned 170 tornadoes in 4 days. Those 170 tornadoes would feature 3 F4s and 1 F5 that touched down in southwest Minnesota. The second outbreak is significantly longer, taking place between the 3rd and 11th of June 2008. There are some conflicting numbers, but the number of tornadoes is around 190 to 200. 1 EF4 would touch down during the outbreak near Manhattan, Kansas, thankfully killing nobody. After June, tornado activity slows as summer settles in, and the drop in tornado count from June to July is pretty big. July is the month where most chasers call their year, and for a reason, as the tornado activity is nowhere close to May and is not the same as April or June. That's not to say it doesn't produce tornadoes or outbreaks, not in the slightest. July has produced some notable tornadoes, including the Yellowstone National Park tornado in Wyoming that was an F4. July has also produced 2 F5s, one in 1996 in Wisconsin, and one in Iowa in 1893. But as far as finding the biggest outbreak goes, there's not much info at all. So I went looking through Tornado Archive for about 45 minutes and didn't find much. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but the biggest outbreak I found was the July 1st to 3rd, 1992 tornado outbreak, which affected the Midwest and Great Lakes areas. 4 F3s would be recorded, accompanied by 9 F2s. 2 people would unfortunately lose their life from this outbreak, however. On July 2nd, an F3 would destroy several homes, killing a person, and shortly after, an F1 would strike 2 mobile home parks, killing 1 person as well. So let's move on to a month where there actually is some information. August. August is where the stat gets low, and many tornadoes during this time and in the following months are mostly spawned by hurricanes, and the number 1 outbreak of August was spawned from a hurricane. Now, August has had a few notable tornadoes, most famously the unwarned Plainfield, Illinois F5 that occurred during the August of 1990. It is one of 2 tornadoes to ever touch down during the month to be rated F5. The other was an F5 tornado that struck Rochester, Minnesota. August doesn't get very many outbreaks, and the biggest one I could find was spawned by Hurricane Katrina, and throughout the 26th and 31st of August 2005, 57 tornadoes would be spawned by Katrina, and 12 other tornadoes would touch down in the northeast United States. Overall, August isn't an amazing month for tornadoes, and it doesn't get better in these next couple of months. September, like August, is when hurricane season is around its peak, and hurricanes often bring tornadoes with them, and this is perfectly shown with Hurricane Ivan in 2004. From the 15th to 18th of September 2004, Hurricane Ivan would spawn 120 tornadoes along the east coast, easily making it the biggest outbreak in the month. The most powerful tornado of the event was an EF3 that affected Warrenton, Virginia. September itself only has had one F5 tornado that touched down in Iowa in 1894, and October is pretty similar to September. October is a very inactive tornado month, but tornadoes still do happen. October, like September, has only had one F5 tornado, that being the 1966 Belmont, Iowa tornado. But the biggest tornado outbreak in October occurred during the 2010 North American storm complex, which was a historic ex-tropical cyclone that impacted North America. The massive storm complex caused a wide range of weather events, including a major serial derecho stretching from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes, a widespread tornado outbreak across the southeast United States and Midwest, and a blizzard across portions of the Canadian prairies and the Dakotas. The tornado outbreak that this produced consisted of 8 EF2s with an overall tally of 69 tornadoes. No tornado-related fatalities were recorded, thankfully. The last few outbreaks haven't been all notable, but for November and December, that trend changes. November, on average, records fewer tornadoes than October, but many large and notable tornado outbreaks have occurred in the month, including the November 17th, 2013 tornado outbreak, which spawned 72 tornadoes and is best known for the Washington, Illinois EF4 tornado. For November, the two outbreaks I found were actually a tie: the 1981 United Kingdom tornado outbreak and the November 22nd to 24th, 2004 tornado outbreak, both having a twister tally of 104. The 1981 United Kingdom tornado outbreak is regarded as the largest recorded tornado outbreak in European history. In the span of 5 hours and 26 minutes during the late morning and early afternoon of the 23rd of November, 1981, 104 confirmed tornadoes touched down across Wales and central, northern, and eastern England. There were two T5 tornadoes, which are the equivalent to F2 tornadoes. The November 22nd to 24th, 2004 tornado outbreak was a record-breaking large and destructive tornado outbreak, which impacted the southern United States at the end of November 2004. Now, moving on to our final month, that being December, which I think is still fresh in everyone's mind. December is the month with the least tornado activity, but it has still had some violent tornadoes and some decent-sized outbreaks. The December of 2021 was the craziest by far, producing two separate record-breaking tornadic events within less than a week. On December 10th through the 11th of 2021, 71 tornadoes touched down, including two very long-tracked and violent EF4s and 6 equally devastating EF3s. Just a few days later, the largest tornado outbreak in the month of December would unfold as a derecho would track across the Midwest, spawning 120 tornadoes, setting the record. December of 2021 would easily go on to be the most active December for tornadoes. If you did enjoy, consider subscribing, as this video took an extremely long time to research. If I did get a month incorrect or some information correct, please comment below and let me know what the actual holder is for the month. But yeah, goodbye.